On June 27, 1983, in Nerima Ward, Tokyo, Japan, a shocking murder case shook the entire nation. The perpetrator used extremely brutal methods to kill 5 out of 6 members of a family, sparing no one, not even a 1-year-old child. However, this gruesome crime sparked mixed reactions in society. Rather than outright condemning the murderer, the public expressed an unusual level of sympathy and understanding. So, what was the story behind this case? Why did a ruthless killer receive empathy from so many people? The central figure in this case was Asakura Kojiro, born on March 9, 1935, in Akita City, Akita Prefecture, Japan. He came from a family that managed a local market in Akita, but his father, who had ties to the Yakuza, squandered money recklessly and neglected the family. As the eldest son, Asakura took on the responsibility of caring for his mother and siblings at an early age. Under pressure from his father, he joined a boxing club to learn self-defense and collect market rent. Despite his poor academic performance, his father used connections to secure his admission to a university. However, Asakura struggled with academics, resorted to cheating on exams, and was eventually suspended. After graduating with a law degree, he married and had 2 children. When his father passed away, he returned to Akita to take over the family business, but a bitter inheritance dispute erupted between him and his younger brother, leading to intense conflicts. The situation escalated in 1961 when Asakura stabbed his brother, leaving him blind in one eye. As a result, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. While serving his sentence, Asakura developed an interest in real estate. Due to good behavior, he was granted parole after serving about 2 years. In May 1965, he moved to Nerima Ward, Tokyo, to start a new life with his wife and children. After settling in Tokyo, Asakura found work as an assistant real estate appraiser at an appraisal firm in Shinjuku. This firm also operated a real estate appraiser training school where he attended classes every Sunday, actively participating in coursework. However, due to his limited academic ability and financial struggles, he relied heavily on his wife's support. Finally, on March 10, 1975, at the age of 40, Asakura officially obtained his real estate appraiser certification. In July 1976, he established his own appraisal office, Toyo, and formally entered the real estate appraisal industry. Less than 3 years later, his business flourished. By December 1979, they had purchased an office near Ochanomizu, Shinjuku, Tokyo, to expand their operations. However, the good times did not last. Around 1982, fate struck Asakura once again. His wife fell seriously ill and had to be hospitalized due to years of overwork. Seeing her continue to handle company matters even from her hospital bed, Asakura was overwhelmed with guilt. He began to realize that the real estate appraisal business required significant effort for relatively little financial return. There was no guarantee of making a large profit. Moreover, as he aged, his health was also beginning to decline, making him question whether he could continue in this profession much longer. Although Asakura had a peculiar temperament and occasional bursts of anger, in his daily life he was a devoted father who loved his wife and children, always striving to provide them with a better life. On one hand, he couldn't bear to see his wife working so hard and wanted to give her the chance to rest. On the other hand, he needed to start preparing for his daughter's future wedding expenses and his son's college tuition. With these concerns in mind, Asakura decided to expand beyond real estate appraisal and shift his focus to real estate trading, as buying and selling properties could yield higher profits in a single transaction. Asakura recalled that he still had some inherited properties in his hometown of Akita. Selling these properties was expected to generate 25 million yen, which he could use as investment capital. If his real estate investments went smoothly, a single property transfer could bring in over 10 million yen in profit. To improve his family's financial situation, Asakura immediately began executing his investment plan. April 1982. He added real estate trading to his company's business operations. July 1982. He renamed his company Asakura Real Estate Appraisal Office. August 1982. He obtained a real estate transaction license from Shibashi, Tokyo, and started searching for potential investment properties. In November 1982, Asakura discovered a property listed for a special auction in Oizumigakuen 6 Chome, Nerima Ward, Tokyo. It was a 2-story wooden building. After evaluation, he realized that the property was located in an upscale, quiet neighborhood, and the auction price was significantly lower than the market value. The potential for profit upon resale was extremely high, so he actively pursued bidding on it. However, Asakura's wife noticed that tenants were still living in the property and expressed concern. According to Japanese rental laws, even if a property changes ownership, existing tenants typically have the right to continue renting. If the new owner wishes to terminate the lease, they must provide at least 6 months advance notice to the tenant, assist the tenant in finding a new residence, pay a relocation fee. These rules exist to protect tenants from arbitrary evictions by landlords. At that time, the standard market relocation fee was approximately 5 million yen. Although this was a substantial amount, after careful calculations, Asakura concluded that even if he had to pay the 5 million yen relocation fee and cover additional legal and administrative costs, he could still earn a profit of 10 to 20 million yen upon reselling the property. Furthermore, the auction officer mentioned that an eviction order could be issued later, leading Asakura to believe that forced eviction of the tenant was feasible. After a brief moment of contemplation, he quickly decided to proceed with bidding on the property. To secure this prime real estate, Asakura went all in, exhausting nearly all his financial resources. He mortgaged almost everything he owned, including his fixed-term savings, his home office property, and forested land. Additionally, he took out a 45 million yen bank loan with monthly interest payments of nearly 1 million yen. A repayment deadline set for June 30th, 1983. As expected, on February 2nd, 1983, Asakura won the auction for this property at the Tokyo District Court with a bid of 106 million yen and successfully completed the total purchase payment of 102.8 million yen. Once the transaction was finalized, Asakura immediately began seeking opportunities to resell the property. However, shortly after obtaining ownership, the court clerk in charge informed Asakura that, given the current circumstances, an eviction order for the tenant family living in the house could not be issued yet. This shocking news hit Asakura like a bolt of lightning. Feeling deceived by the court official, he was furious. But at this point, he had no choice but to resolve the issue through negotiation or legal action. The tenants living in the 2-story house in Oizumigakuen 6 Chome, Nerima Ward, Tokyo, were the Shirai family, the future victims of the Nerima 5-person massacre. The head of the household was Akira Shirai, 45 years old, who worked for a Japanese retail company as a chief merchandise manager. Akira Shirai and his wife, Sachiko Shirai, had 4 children. Eldest daughter, Yoshiko, third daughter, Tomoko, second son, Masatoshi. Their eldest son had passed away at a young age. After realizing that forced eviction was not possible, Asakura aggressively pursued negotiations. From late February to early March 1983, he visited the Shirai family multiple times, requesting that they vacate the property by the end of March. To show goodwill, he voluntarily offered to pay a relocation fee of 5 million yen. At this time, the Shirai family appeared willing to negotiate. Their cooperative attitude gave Asakura a sense of relief, making him believe that things were progressing smoothly and that the Shirai family would soon move out. On March 1st, 1983, Asakura signed a transfer contract with a construction company in Shinjuku. The company agreed to purchase the property for 129.5 million yen at the end of April 1983, on the condition that the property would be vacant upon handover. The handover deadline was set for June 30th, 1983, which was also the final deadline for Asakura's bank loan repayment. If he failed to deliver the property on time, he would be required to pay a penalty fee equivalent to double the deposit, totaling 30 million yen. The remaining bank loan balance of 14.5 million yen. This created a massive financial burden of 44.5 million yen. However, by the end of March, Asakura discovered that the Shirai family showed no signs of moving out. This made him extremely anxious. He visited the house repeatedly, but every attempt was unsuccessful. Even worse, Akira Shirai's wife began coldly dismissing him, repeatedly using the excuse, "My husband is not home. I don't know anything." With no other options, Asakura sought legal advice from a lawyer friend and filed a lawsuit against the Shirai family. On March 28, 1983, the first oral court hearing took place. However, the trial made no real progress, and the next hearing was scheduled for May 23rd. At this point, Akira Shirai discreetly suggested to Asakura, "If you withdraw the lawsuit, we will move out immediately." Despite his lawyer's warning that the Shirai family seemed to be deliberately stalling and that Asakura should stay cautious, Asakura naively believed them and dropped the lawsuit. However, this turned out to be a carefully planned trap by the Shirai family. They had no intention of moving out, and instead took advantage of Asakura's urgent transfer deadline to demand a 30 million yen relocation fee. By March 31st, Asakura once again visited the Shirai family to demand answers, but Akira Shirai responded, "We've handed the matter over to our lawyer. We can't make any decisions ourselves." At that moment, Asakura noticed a drastic shift in their attitude. They had become more arrogant and defiant. From the way they spoke, he could also sense a veiled threat, making the situation even more unsettling. At this point, Asakura's hopes were completely shattered. He finally realized that real estate appraisal and real estate trading may differ by only 2 words, but the expertise and experience required are vastly different. While he was an expert in property valuation, in real estate business negotiations, he was nothing more than a novice. The Shirai family's property, which initially seemed like a prime real estate opportunity, turned out to be a well-known problem property, one that seasoned real estate investors knew to avoid. In reality, a master manipulator in real estate dealings had been orchestrating everything from behind the scenes. The original owner of this house was Akira Shirai's father-in-law. However, around September 1981, his company faced financial difficulties. To raise capital, he repeatedly mortgaged the land and building to various financial institutions, eventually accumulating 210 million yen in debt, multiple ownership transfers of the house, an inevitable foreclosure and auction sale. Shirai's father-in-law was a cunning veteran in real estate dealings. He had extensive litigation experience. He was a skilled negotiator. On March 20th, 1977, he had signed a 5-year lease for the property with the Shirai family. Furthermore, he instructed them to stay put and refuse to move, using their occupancy as leverage to inflate the relocation compensation demands for any future buyers. However, Asakura had no knowledge of this hidden scheme and continued his futile attempts to negotiate the Shirai family's departure. As the handover deadline drew closer, his anxiety grew overwhelming. Despite being in a state of mounting panic, Asakura kept everything bottled up. Having grown up shouldering burdens alone, he told neither his wife nor his lawyer about his distress. Instead, he pinned all his hopes on the upcoming second oral hearing. However, after enduring a grueling wait, on May 23rd, he received a devastating notice from the court. The defendant's legal representative has requested more time to prepare. The trial is postponed to June 6th. At this point, Asakura fell into utter despair. If he could not deliver a vacant property by June 30th and receive the remaining payment from the real estate company, he would be unable to repay his 14.5 million yen loan. He would lose the trust of the bank. His mortgaged assets could be seized, wiping out all his wealth. His reputation as a real estate appraiser could be destroyed. Everything he had worked tirelessly to build could collapse. Under the mounting pressure, a murderous intent gradually formed in Asakura's mind. If things continue like this, the only solution is to kill them all, to silence the entire family. After making his decision, Asakura told his lawyer, "It's pointless now anyway." He then voluntarily withdrew his lawsuit against the Shirai family. By late May 1983, Asakura had secretly devised a murder plan. He intended to dispose of the victims' bodies in the dense Jukai forest at the foot of Mount Fuji. Since he didn't know how to drive, he purchased a car and enrolled in a driving school to practice. Additionally, to prepare for unexpected situations such as bad weather or unforeseen obstacles, he rented a small apartment about 2.5 miles from the Shirai residence for 100,000 yen per month, which he planned to use as a temporary hiding place for the bodies. On the morning of June 27, 1983, Asakura dressed in his usual business suit and told his wife, "I'm going to negotiate the house handover." After confirming that his wife had left for the day, he secretly returned home to change into sportswear, retrieve the murder weapons he had already prepared, leave again, this time with deadly intent. Asakura believed that 3 p.m. was the ideal time to strike because Akira Shirai, the head of the household, was usually at work. Fewer people would be around to notice anything unusual. Before heading to the Shirai residence, he drove to the area to observe the surroundings. At around 3 p.m., Asakura approached the Shirai house. When he rang the doorbell, Sachiko Shirai, Akira Shirai's wife, answered the door. Inside the house, their youngest daughter, Masako, and their second son, Masatoshi, were playing in the living room. At that moment, Asakura still clung to a final shred of hope. He hoped for a cooperative response from the family. As he had done before, he repeated, "I came today to discuss the house handover." However, Sachiko responded with frustration in her voice. "I don't know. Everything is being handled by our lawyer." This infuriated Asakura. His expression darkened, and he gritted his teeth as he threatened, "This land and house belong to me. When do you plan to move out?" Yet, Sachiko showed no concern for his increasingly aggressive tone. She didn't even glance at him, instead turning her back and walking toward the living room. Enraged, Asakura followed her, shouting, "I see there's nothing left to discuss." Without hesitation, he pulled a heavy iron hammer from his bag, raised it in front of the two children, and struck Sachiko brutally on the head. She collapsed on the floor, crying out in pain. "It hurts. It hurts." She tried to crawl toward the dining room, but Asakura chased her down. Grabbing her by the collar with his left hand, he continued to strike her head repeatedly with the hammer until he was certain she had stopped breathing. Witnessing this horrific scene, young Masako and Masatoshi were paralyzed with terror and screamed in fear. But their cries were cut short, as Asakura mercilessly bludgeoned them to death with the same hammer. Afterward, Asakura dragged all 3 bodies into the bathroom. He cleaned the bloodstains in the living room and dining area. Once the cleanup was complete, he placed the bodies into the bathtub and covered them. Then, as if nothing had happened, he calmly sat down in the living room, waiting for what would come next. Around 4 p.m., Tomoko, the 9-year-old daughter of the Shirai family, returned home from school. Seeing Asakura sitting on the sofa in the living room, she found it a little strange but did not ask any questions, and was about to go upstairs when Asakura spoke up. "When is your older sister coming home?" Tomoko replied that she was on a school field trip and would not be back until the night of the 29th. It turned out that the eldest daughter of the Shirai family, a 5th grader, was participating in an extracurricular activity in Nagano Prefecture and was fortunate to escape the massacre. However, poor Tomoko was not able to escape her tragic fate. That day happened to be Sachiko's 41st birthday, and the previous day had been Tomoko's 9th birthday. Akira Shirai had planned to hold birthday celebrations for 2 consecutive days, but he never expected such a horrific outcome. After the murders, Asakura changed into a fresh set of sportswear, returned to his car to retrieve a backpack containing an axe, towels, and gloves, and then calmly returned to the Shirai family's living room, waiting for Akira Shirai to return from work. At 9:30 p.m., Akira Shirai arrived home. Asakura, pretending nothing was wrong, greeted him under the pretense of negotiating the house handover while concealing the axe by his side. Asakura then raised his voice, shouting, "You bastard! You're illegally occupying my house and refusing to leave." Akira Shirai sensed something was off. He started to step back, preparing to leave, but Asakura suddenly swung the axe down upon him. Akira Shirai collapsed instantly, unable to even scream for help, and died on the spot from severe head trauma. After killing him, Asakura dragged Akira Shirai's body into the bathroom to deal with it. However, since it was already late at night, Asakura feared that making too much noise might alert the neighbors, so he decided to wait until morning before continuing. After taking a bath, he went to sleep as if nothing had happened. The next morning, the Shirai family's relatives, who had planned to visit the family to celebrate the birthdays, repeatedly called the house, but no one answered. Sensing something was wrong, they asked a neighbor to check on the family. When the neighbor rang the doorbell, a strange man answered the door. Shocked and suspicious, the neighbor asked about the Shirai family. Asakura remained unnervingly calm and responded, "The Shirai family moved out yesterday. I live here now. My name is Inai." Of course, the neighbor didn't believe a word of it. Fearing that the Shirai family was being held captive inside, they immediately called the police. When police arrived at the scene, Asakura attempted to escape through the back door, but was quickly apprehended. During questioning, he confessed to the gruesome murders without hesitation. By June 1985, Professor Hideo Hosai from Seiin University of Art and Design's medical department conducted a psychiatric evaluation of Asakura. The final report concluded that Asakura was mentally sound at the time of the crime, fully aware of his actions, and knew right from wrong. Therefore, he was deemed legally competent to be held fully responsible for his crimes. Professor Hosai further explained that Asakura's actions were highly calculated and premeditated. For example, he had prepared as many as 55 different tools for the crime, including a meat grinder, and had rented an apartment in advance to use as a crime scene. These details clearly demonstrated his meticulous planning and intent. Even when apprehended, Asakura remained unnervingly composed, suggesting that he had experience carrying out violent crimes. On October 18, 1985, during the trial, prosecutors emphasized that Asakura believed the victims were deliberately stalling the house handover. However, in reality, the Shirai family never explicitly stated when they would vacate the house. Despite knowing the uncertainty of the situation, Asakura still proceeded with the property transfer agreement. Ultimately, his own poor decisions led to his financial crisis, but instead of accepting responsibility, he chose to commit mass murder. Additionally, Asakura ruthlessly murdered 5 people in a single family, including young children, desecrated the bodies to conceal his crimes, displayed an utter lack of human emotion, had a violent and irredeemable nature. For these reasons, there was no justification for leniency, and the prosecution demanded the death penalty. Asakura's defense attorney, Michio Nishimoto, sympathized deeply with his client's circumstances. He believed that Japan's real estate auction system contained traps that unfairly disadvantaged victims, and for this reason, he decided to mount a strong defense for Asakura. Despite being diagnosed with terminal cancer the previous fall and being told he had only a few months to live, Nishimoto persisted in defending Asakura and attended the trial hearings in early October 1985, doing everything he could to help his client avoid the death sentence. Unfortunately, due to his rapidly deteriorating condition, Nishimoto passed away in early November, shortly after the first instance trial concluded on November 30th, 1985. On December 20th, 1985, the Tokyo District Court sentenced Asakura to death, stating, "Although the victim's attitude may have provoked the defendant's anger and placed him under psychological pressure, this was in no way sufficient to justify such brutal murders." The ultimate motive behind his crime was to protect his financial and social standing. It was entirely self-serving. Even though Asakura Kojiro attempted to compensate the surviving eldest daughter by liquidating his assets, this did not change the fact that he had premeditated the slaughter of an entire family. Even when taking into account his previous efforts and past honesty, it was undeniable that he had completely trampled upon basic human morality. His crime was so severe that only the death penalty could serve justice for society. However, the defense repeatedly appealed to the Tokyo High Court, arguing that the sentence was too severe, but all appeals were rejected. On December 27, 2001, Asakura Kojiro was executed at Tokyo Prison at the age of 66. At the time, this case was widely portrayed in the Japanese media as a bizarre and heinous murder, and public opinion overwhelmingly condemned Asakura. However, with the rise of the internet, more details about the case began to surface. allowing the public to see the bigger picture behind the crime. Murder is inexcusable, but when examining the truth behind this case, the psychological pressure and desperation that Asakura endured, as well as the circumstances that led to them, are indeed worthy of discussion. Looking at the case as a whole, the property in which the Shirai family lived legally belonged to Asakura after he won the auction in court. From a legal standpoint, Asakura would have almost certainly won the lawsuit. However, pursuing a legal verdict would have required an extensive amount of time and effort. Due to the overwhelming pressure from his impending loan repayment and the looming house transfer deadline, Asakura could not afford to wait for the lengthy legal process, ultimately leading to this tragic outcome. Furthermore, it is not difficult to see that every time Asakura encountered an unsolvable problem, the influence of his father and his childhood hardships played a significant role in shaping his actions. So, what do you think about this case? Leave a comment to discuss. Everyone, stay vigilant and stay safe. See you in the next episode.